emphasize that you are the filmmaker of this extraordinary new film and that we all have to see it. And it is breaking news. It's called Humans and Other Animals, and it shows the very close connection between humans and other animals and how we really do a disservice to animals when we think they are somehow less than us. So the breaking news is that we have a film to show you, and it's an extraordinary new film, Humans and Other Animals. There's the filmmaker on a journey of discovery. Those birds, those other animals you're looking at, they are so much smarter than we give them credit for. And yet, what do? We torture them. What do? We stick them in cages. So the filmmaker has been on this journey of discovery, trying to wake people up and using the very latest high-tech equipment that is out there in order to wake people up. And when you see this film, it's going to blow your mind. So we are urging you to sign up for the LA premiere. There are premieres all across the country. New York, Los Angeles, Dallas, Texas, Boston, San Francisco, Philadelphia. You can get tickets. We're giving away tickets to the first 5 callers. There is the filmmaker, Mark DeVries, who is an award-winning filmmaker, and this is the new film, Humans and Other Animals. So go to humansandotheraниmalsmovie.com to get your premiere tickets wherever you are. If you're in Los Angeles, we will give you tickets if you're one of the first 5 callers. This is an extraordinary new movie, and it's a must-see. So, Mark, I want to ask you, you've already made this one absolutely extraordinary film, Speciesism, the movie, that has won so many awards, that has been seen by millions of people around the world, that is used as an educational tool for people who want to learn how to improve their relationship with other species. Why this new movie?
Well, we're really at the start of what could be considered a scientific revolution. We're discovering that non-human animals are far more sophisticated, far more aware, far more intelligent than people have imagined. And in a sense, that shouldn't be surprising. We think of ourselves as separate, distinct from other species. But in fact, we're animals. That's why this film is called Humans and Other Animals. We're a species of animal. And other animals, like us, have emotions that, as far as we can establish, are as intense, as real as our own. And so I speak with people like a scientist who has done research showing that rodents fall in love and that the brain chemicals are likely to be the same. The brain areas that are activated are likely to be the same. The genes are likely to be the same that are involved with bonding, pair bonding, as we call it in non-human animals, and relationships, as we call it in humans. We often use different words for the same thing between, contrasting humans and non-human animals. And so this is a scientific revolution. We're learning that we're not the only species with strong emotions, with a strong social and intellectual inner world. And that's changing everything in terms of how we see other species. And it seems like it should change a lot in terms of how we treat other species. And as I mentioned, I'm hoping that this film will be a single package that people can share with friends and family members that really makes the case for changing how we view and how we treat non-human animals and making changes in our own lives.
Well, let's take a little look at a little clip and talk on the other side.
It's a scientific revolution.
Animals are way more intelligent than we used to think.
Yes, chimpanzees are hunting with spears.
So she's the leader.
She's the one who makes the decision.
We discovered that they were paying very close attention to us.
But that's just the beginning.
There are a lot of people making a lot of money who don't want us to change how we see other animals.
They want to separate humans from non-human animals because then it opens the door, gives them license and power to do anything they want.
And we're only getting crueler. I mean, the number of animals that we're killing as a species is mind-boggling. More animals are killed in one day than all the humans who have died in all the wars in human history. We're going in the wrong direction. And yet we're also going in the right direction as organizations like PETA, Mercy for Animals, and hundreds of others, the Non-Human Rights Project, Animal Legal Defense Fund, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, try to wake us up that when we hurt animals, we're killing ourselves, we're killing our planet. How do you make sense of those two trajectories where the number of animals being killed is going up, but we're also kind of waking up simultaneously?
Yeah, we're really at an inflection point. Things are changing in terms of people's attitudes towards non-human animals. Things are changing in terms of people changing their diets and so forth. But at the same time, we can't change things fast enough because literally trillions of animals are being tortured and killed every year. And once we change our human-centered view, something called speciesism, the assumption that there's a sharp moral gulf between different members of different species, and we start taking non-human animals seriously as a serious social and political issue, all of a sudden, this basically opens up the world and makes this a profoundly serious social issue and quite possibly, quite likely, perhaps the most serious social and political issue of our time. So things are changing. A growing number of people are standing up and saying we have to change how we view other animals. But every one of us who cares about ethics and who cares about reducing suffering and injustice in the world, we should know that we can make a difference whenever we speak with people about this issue. And I hope that this film will be another small part of the tools that we need to spread the word.
Now, you use some very high-tech equipment, which, I mean, honestly, you've got guts. You're going into these dangerous situations. I've been working for animal rights my whole life, but you don't see me going in with drones and all the things that you did. I want to play another little clip, and then you can describe exactly what's going on, because it seems pretty extraordinary.
So I decided to see for myself.
But these industries are pretty damn secretive.
How do we get over the barbed wire?
Hello, is anyone here? Hello, is anyone here? Excuse me, is anyone there?
So I had to take some extreme measures.
We had to design a new type of camera just for this investigation.
This is quite a thing to try to sneak through the hole.
Those recordings, if you share them, could mean that you're thrown in jail.
I have a gunpoint on my head.
It could be pretty dangerous.
This is a good disguise, right?
A risk when you went out there. Were you in fear? Did you fear that maybe something could happen to you as a result of what you were doing?
Yes, that's the short answer. The industries really do whatever they can to stop people from seeing what happens inside these facilities. They've passed laws, as is mentioned in that clip, or gotten legislators to pass laws to make it illegal in some places to film or to share footage. These are industries that have a really strong interest in hiding what's happening. And so people who are trying to expose this have to get more and more creative. So we literally had to, as you'll see in the film, develop new technologies in order to find new ways to get into these facilities. They're always having to stay ahead of the ways that they're trying to stop us. And so that included some difficult and dangerous things, as you'll see in the film, but which thankfully paid off in terms of being able to expose what happens in these facilities in different parts of the world.
I'm very fascinated by when I talk to people who have really devoted their lives to this issue. We recently interviewed Ingrid Newkirk, the co-founder and president of PETA. What made them devote their lives? Like, why you? And there is a clip from your previous movie where you explain that you saw something and it just totally changed the trajectory of your life. Let's look at that and discuss on the other side.
This is me, working on the movie that you're watching right now. I started researching and filming this in college when I was 20. I made it more important than anything else I did. I didn't do my homework or go out much. This just had to be made into a film. But I didn't have much time or money, so I worked at Disney World and Starbucks and a museum and put all of my money toward the film. Last year, at 22, when I was about to leave for law school, I decided to postpone it and move in with my dad for a year to finish the movie. Of course, I didn't know how to make a movie, but I did make some new friends along the way who helped me out by holding the camera, like a PhD candidate named Alex.
I can hear me pretty well in my headphones.
And a fellow psychology student named Alana. Sometimes they just sat and watched. So anyway, back to the movie.
Hey, what do you say? How many bears were killed today?
I've been naked in Florida, Arizona, Las Vegas.
Oh, should I Google your name? Are you naked on the internet also?
Yes, I am.
I visited a few more of these animal rights events.
And by the way, you have Ringling Brothers there. One of the first videos I ever did when I started this project in 2015 was cover a rally in Brooklyn against Ringling Brothers. All of us wondering, do we have a shot in hell at getting circuses to stop using animals? Well, we ultimately won, thanks to organizations like PETA. But every time I see Ringling Brothers, I remind myself of the Nelson Mandela quote, "It always seems impossible until it's done." Getting back to you, why you? What was it about what you saw that just changed the whole direction of your life?
You know, it's because what happens to animals is so shocking. It's almost impossible to believe that the industries fight so hard to keep it hidden. Once I found out, as a result actually of PETA, what really happens in factory farms, that animals who are as intelligent and as emotionally aware as dogs and cats and any other animals we know are kept by the billions in what are literally factories. They're not farms anymore. They're literally mechanized systems. Once I realized that, I thought, well, how is it possible that this isn't a massive public outrage? And the reason is, of course, in large part because it's kept hidden, and in large part because it's just viewed as normal that we use animals for food as we do. So once I realized that and I started looking into it, the deeper you go, the deeper and more profound this issue becomes. And the more you come across the really deep philosophical questions about why we think we're so distinct, so different from other species. And that's what I tried to tackle in this film, the really fundamental questions. We think that we're something separate, something different from other species. And I spoke with scientists all over the world, from the Congo to back home in the United States, who are studying particular individual animals where they live in the world. And I was able to go to those places and see things like, for example, a bonobo. These are animals closely related to chimpanzees, where our common ancestor was only 6 to 8 million years ago, maybe, between humans and these animals. And I saw one who decided, she was trying to decide how far into the water she could sort of wade in towards us. And she got a stick out and she measured the depth of the water with the stick. This is something I don't think I even would have thought of. And the more you see things that show that these are individuals making decisions, experiencing the world like us, the more you really wake up and say, oh my God, if that's true, and there are literally billions, now if we include aquatic animals, which we should, trillions of individuals being exploited by us, it really essentially changes the world. That's what happened to me. And that's what I hope that I can help have happen to viewers of this film.
All right, we've got some callers. Annie in Sherman Oaks, California. Your question or thought for filmmaker Mark DeVries.
Oh my goodness, I am so excited. Thank you, Jane, for doing the show, and Mark for being here. You both are heroes. I mean, there's no much more to say, but I'd love to know, these movies you're making, they're so important, so essential. Oh my God, every day I lose sleep over the horrors I see. Every day there's more to discover. One, I mean, I'm impressed, like you leaving not going to your law school and doing this, because you do see the urgency. What really got you to feel that dire urgency that you put everything on freeze to make this movie?
Thank you, Annie. Excellent question.
Thank you.
Mark, yes.
You know,
a lot of people see this stuff, and I try to show it to not only through our streaming network, millions of people, but also to relatives, etc. And sometimes I'll get a response like, that's intense, or ooh, but it doesn't seem to change some people's behavior patterns. This is the conundrum. Like, how can we be horrified by something and other people, yawn?
A lot of it is what the social norms are. When humankind human beings held other human beings as slaves for practically all of human history, in practically every culture, as far as I know. And so now we look back and say, that's crazy. How could we have done that? And I think the reason is, if you're brought up in a situation where something that on reflection would be terribly wrong is just viewed as okay and normal by everyone around you, we're social animals, and we essentially look around, look at what the norms are, and we do that. And that's why it's up to a fairly small group of people who have woken up to changing their view of other animals to push the norms in the right direction, to, in the same way that people have done for past wrongs, start waking people up bit by bit. So it can seem like it's happening too slowly, and it can make people feel like they just should give up. But really, what we've seen throughout history is that changes do happen. They seem slow at the beginning, and then there's a critical mass where we see a major change. And that's why it's important for all of us who do care about non-human animals and see the extent of the tragedy, the extent of the wrong, to do what we can effectively to influence and educate others. And of course, that's what I've tried to do with this film, is really give you something in one package that you can, for example, bring friends and family to the screenings or share it with them when it's on streaming platforms.
Yes. We've got another caller, Michelle in Los Angeles. Your question or thought for Mark DeVries, the filmmaker of Humans and Other Animals.
Hi, the trailer is really fascinating. I was wondering, what response are you getting from non-vegans? And do you feel that it's actually making a connection? Do you think they're getting it? Do you think people's minds are changing?
And by the way, we've already given out 2 free tickets, one to Annie and one to Michelle for the Los Angeles premiere on July 17th. And so keep calling. We will give away 3 more tickets. Go ahead, Mark.
So I've seen, for example, with my first film, a lot of people who said things like, wow, I never saw it that way. When it introduced the philosophical case for really fundamentally changing how we view non-human animals. And I've heard from people who've said that it changed their lives and changed their diets and so forth. And I think with this film, it's aimed even more broadly. People are really fascinated with, as they should be, the incredible sophistication of non-human animals, their social and emotional lives. And that's what draws people in. And then when people are drawn in, they can be introduced to the case for, well, there are ethical implications from this. If these animals are experiencing something, then there's something ethically to take into account, especially as it shows in the trailer, when we investigate what's really happening behind closed doors. So I've seen with this film, since it's not out yet, I've seen people's reactions to the promotional materials, to the trailer and so forth, and people who are not vegan, who are not animal advocates and so forth, say, wow, that looks interesting. That looks exciting. I'm curious to see it. And that's what I was aiming for, a film that people who are new to this issue and who are completely unfamiliar with this issue can be drawn in by, can be made curious, and can be engaged throughout the film. And particularly importantly, it gets the points across without being excessively graphic. So if you're afraid of it being too upsetting to watch, it won't be. Sorry, Jane, go ahead.
No, I think that's super important. A lot of people don't want to watch graphic footage. In fact, I have to watch a lot of it. I'm sure you obviously have to watch a lot of it. And enough. I'm already vegan. I don't need to self-traumatize by watching this. The people who need to watch it don't want to watch it. And that's a conundrum that we have to solve. Oh, we've got another caller. Sarah in Atlanta, your question or thought?
Hi, I actually saw your movie Speciesism and when I lived in Atlanta, and you were there, and it was really nice. And I wanted to ask you, are you planning on screening this film in colleges and universities? I think that if someone's teaching a class on ethics, then this film should be immediately put into their curriculum. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. We're working on exactly that, making it available to universities through a particular company that actually makes things available for free through like university library systems and so forth, so that professors can assign the film and can show the film and so forth, and groups can do screenings. So we are doing exactly that because, younger people, and college age is like just a perfect age, are willing, more so it seems, to rethink prejudices and assumptions and norms that they grew up with. So college students who have more open minds and are interested in new ideas and new ways of looking on the world, and who are ethically concerned, those are exactly the people we want to make sure we bring it to a lot. I actually just got an email yesterday from a professor who's already interested in showing it to a class. I should mention, just to continue something that was dropped off in the last question, this film intentionally has footage that shows the conditions, that gets across what happens without being too graphic. So if you're afraid of watching graphic footage, you should still be able to watch this film. It gets the ideas across, it shows how bad it is, but it should not be traumatizing.
Yes. And by the way, Tom wants to know, will the movie be shown in other cities? Yes. And I will now put up where you go to get the entire list, but Chicago, Philly, Dallas, Boston, as well as New York and LA, and even some others. All right, we've got another caller, Georgia and Santa Monica. Your question or thought for Mark DeVries, the filmmaker.
Hi. Yes, Mark, I want to congratulate you. And you have a great spark inside of you, and that will light up a lot of people. And I'm very excited about that. And but how do we get it to the people who actually have power, who actually are the ones who need to change? I mean, I think it's fantastic to reach out to young people and start a revolution, but all the millions of animals that are suffering right now, how can we actually get into the hands of these people who actually can do something today?
I think, change happens too slowly from the standpoint of those who are suffering in current exploitation. But it happens, and is happening in the case of animals, quickly when we look at things historically, when we look at how we've exploited animals throughout our history as soon as we were able to, and how quickly there's a serious public conversation about changing it. So I don't think things will end right away. I don't think there is a path to ending things within just the next few years. But we do see a change faster than I think we might have reasonably expected as a result of younger people and new generations questioning norms and the norms starting to shift. I am, though, also getting the support of intellectual influencers, people who have large followings and who have a large impact in the intellectual world, who will be able to share the film. People like Steven Pinker, for example, at Harvard, who's written many best-selling books and who's in the film. And so that will help reach influential and powerful people, as well as new generations coming in.
All right, we've got yet another caller. And Georgia, by the way, you have a free ticket to the premiere on July 17th. And now we've got Tiffany, also in Los Angeles. Tiffany, do you want a free ticket? And what's your question?
I can't wait. Yes, please. Thank you for taking my call, Jane and Mark. I'm so inspired by your it's a fresh energy. You're young, and I'm just feeling really inspired by seeing you and excited to see the movie. And I want to ask, have you received any pushback from animal ag or the industry at all? Thank you.
Yes. Well, first of all, in the first film I did, they even had one of their front groups write basically hit pieces trying to discourage people from watching the film. I have heard that there are messages going around within animal agriculture telling them to watch out for this film. And that's a good sign because if they're doing that, it suggests that they see a potential impact of the film. And I think, when it's on major streaming platforms, which it will be starting in a few months after all of the screenings, it will, I hope, reach those millions of people that the animal agriculture industry is concerned about. By the way, for people who can't make it to the screenings in New York, LA, San Francisco, Dallas, Boston, Philadelphia, or Chicago, if you add your email address on the website that's on the screen now, humansandotheranimalsmovie.com, you'll get an alert when it's available for streaming later on. Though the premieres, I'll be there, and I hope to meet many of you at those.
Wow. So I think you're right. It's a badge of honor to be listed as a threat. An animal agriculture magazine wrote up Unchained TV as a threat. Oh my God, they've got their own streaming network. I was like, yeah, let's put that up on the website. That shows that we're making a difference. So the Farm Bill. Now, we've been covering protests about the Farm Bill because if you look at in terms of sheer numbers, the number of animals that are tortured and killed, food is undoubtedly number one. Correct me if you think I'm wrong. Maybe if you're talking about insects, it might be, but it's still food because they're being killed as part of the agricultural process. So what will determine what happens with food subsidies, which is subsidies to the meat and dairy industry by the U.S. government for the next 5 years, will be determined by the Farm Bill. And we've interviewed people who have literally been protesting and disrupting some of the hearings regarding the Farm Bill because speaking nicely doesn't seem to do much. And so I'll play one little clip of Free From Harm, an organization that disrupted an animal agriculture hearing, saying, stop subsidizing animal agriculture. It's not free market. It's not capitalism. It's corporate socialism. Those who believe, well, it's the market. No, the average fast food hamburger would probably cost $20, $25. Who knows if it wasn't subsidized by our tax dollars.
The Farm Bill is a product of dark money that comes from the meat, dairy, and egg industries who have bought your vote through millions of dollars in campaign contributions. You have betrayed hardworking Americans, but we refuse to pay for disease outbreaks that come from confining and slaughtering billions of animals. Not another penny for cooking millions of birds alive. It's time to fund a slaughter-free, plant-based food system. Stop the animal ag bailout. Stop the animal ag bailout. Stop the animal ag bailout.
And it goes on and on like that. So what are your thoughts on that? Because they're approaching it from a different perspective. Yes, we have to make the consumers aware, but ultimately, a lot of consumers, it's going to come down to not just taste, but price. And the government is making meat and dairy artificially cheap with massive subsidies. And so that is putting the thumb on the scale. How do we overcome that?
Yeah, these issues go together, of course, because as people eat fewer animal products, there are more people who are vegetarian, vegan, who reduce their meat consumption, the less power the meat industry has to pull those levers in Congress. So the tactics go together, focusing to the extent possible on legislative change now, despite it being very difficult because of these industries who are, as shown there, able to get themselves subsidized, and many other issues like being able to have limited environmental regulation and ineffective regulation in various areas and so forth. So getting public concern on the side of taking non-human animals seriously and taking the environmental impact seriously is extremely important. Getting people to reduce their consumption of animal products is extremely important because of the power that that gives the industry. And of course, bringing your voice to the extent possible directly to the legislature, in part for the purpose of educating more of the public about how bad things are with the influence that the meat industry has. Those things really go together and mutually reinforce each other.
Well, you talked about the environmental aspect because we're in a climate crisis, and animal agriculture is one of the biggest reasons why that the mainstream media doesn't talk about. And I was in the mainstream media for 38 years, so I can tell you, I know why they don't talk about it. All you have to do is look at the advertisers, primarily fast food and pharmaceuticals, and you can get your answer. They're not going to talk about it. It's verboten, and because those are the industries that are keeping the lights on. So how do we do an end run around that? Well, your documentary, our streaming network, Unchained TV, which I urge everybody to download. But when it comes to the environmental impact, you address that in one of your films or both of your films. I haven't seen your newest film yet. I've seen clips. I can't wait to see the whole thing. Let's check this out and talk about it on the other side.
Everybody gets up in the morning and they eat their bacon as if there's no problem out in the world, in the countryside. There's a tremendous problem. The bacon isn't being raised on family farms anymore. It's being raised in factory farms where animals never see the light of day, where they go from the size of your fist to 250 pounds in 5 months. You can drive down any highway in North Carolina, anywhere in eastern North Carolina, almost one after the other, you're going to see hog farm, hog farm, hog farm. There's going to be confinement buildings, and there's going to be this huge cesspool that they call a lagoon. And no pretty girls in bathing suits here. This is a cesspool. They give it a name, lagoon, but it's a cesspool. It's full of basically untreated animal waste. The only treatment it gets is it sits and ferments inside that cesspool. When that cesspool fills up, they take it out and they spread it and spray it through the air on these fields. If there's a wind blowing, it's going to mist off and it's going to go off the fields. But even when they spray it on the fields, all these fields have ditches cut through them to take the excess liquids that are sprayed on them and get them off the field to keep the field drained. All of those ditches lead to rivers, wetlands, streams, and creeks.
And that is from the film Speciesism, the movie, which I'm very proud to say is streaming on Unchained TV for free. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. We do not charge for anybody to watch any film. You can literally download Unchained TV on your phone right now for free via your app store. You can watch unchainedtv.com on your laptop, and you can download Unchained TV, the streaming network, on your television. If you have a Samsung TV, it's right there in the App Store. If you have any TV, you can use Amazon Fire Stick, Roku device, or Apple TV device to download Unchained TV and check out Speciesism, the movie, which is the previous film, which has won many awards and which so many people have watched, and it's changed so many lives. So that was a clip from Speciesism, the movie. Since you've made that, has anything gotten better? Have we become more aware of the horrific impact of cows? For example, here in California, America's largest dairy state. And I have people always coming up to me and saying, oh, the almonds, because that's what the news media talks about. They don't talk about the fact that there are millions of cows here in California. and that their excrement is massive compared to humans. They're much larger, and that excrement is going into the rivers and streams and ending up in the Pacific Ocean, which now, and I live a block from the beach, there are signs, advisory signs, do not go in the water. And why? Because of the agricultural runoff, but people don't talk about it, Mark.
Things are changing in terms of awareness, and many different films and videos and your work, Jane, with Unchained TV and many others have helped spread awareness and help spread concern. But the environmental issues are really increasingly shocking. When I went down to North Carolina, it almost seemed like it was an alien landscape. We're talking about these facilities with thousands of animals in each building, their waste falling through slats in the concrete floors and then being flushed into these giant open pits, literally open pits the size of a football field or more of untreated animal waste. It's just mind-boggling. And people next door have the wind just blow right over these and right into their homes. That just gives you a picture of what today's animal agriculture industry really is. It is so far from the farm that people see on packaging and that they want you to believe is where animal products are coming from.
But, I'm sorry, but there is a willful ignorance here. I think you'd have to be living under a rock not to understand what has happened with agriculture. Anybody who even occasionally glances at Instagram or YouTube, much less watching in-depth documentaries, sees this. They just don't want to see it. I mean, I've talked to some good friends, relatives, there's a wall there. It's like, but who pays the price for that? How do we let people know that this isn't just a personal choice? First of all, when people say it's a personal choice, everything's a personal choice. Driving the wrong way down the freeway is a personal choice. Brushing your teeth in the morning is a personal choice. That doesn't mean anything. But how do we get these people to realize that this isn't just a personal choice? It has incredible environmental impacts. It has impacts on the animals who are systematically tortured. And it has impacts on the people who are working in these industries who suffer so much psychological and physical distress from having to kill animals all the time. They are at the bottom of the socioeconomic ladder, often former inmates who are released and funneled into these slaughterhouses, or people who are undocumented, who have no other choice. And it seems like a lot of that goes out the window, even with people who are otherwise progressive and liberal. If you try to connect it to meat and dairy, they suddenly don't want to know about it.
Well, first, of course, that's why I made this film, because I hope that projects like this that introduce the really fascinating inner world of animals, that engage people's curiosity, scientific curiosity, sense of wonder, and so forth. These types of projects can get people to sit down and watch something that then really introduces and educates and persuades, because people aren't often willing to watch something if they view it as at the outset just focused on, say, animal agriculture or speciesism. So I hope that this is the type of film that people can share and persuade friends and family to come and see by showing them the trailer and letting them know that it's not graphic if they ask. But secondly, it is true that people are stuck in their ways when it's what everyone else around them does. And so we do have to expect that it will take a long time for a social change, and that we have to keep plugging away as a loud minority of people who are keeping this in the public eye, keeping this in public awareness, and more people, as it becomes more socially acceptable, more and more people will start to make changes, will start to change their views, will start to accept the strength of the arguments and ideas. And it's over time that we can expect, like with many other social changes, a tipping point. But it will be a while of grabbing the people who are willing to update their views in accordance with the arguments and the evidence.
And once again, and thank you for sharing this video if you're watching on social media. And if you're watching on our Unchained TV streaming network, you can see right there, there is the video. You just click and you watch from, this is a Samsung TV, but again, you can watch from any television. And I urge you to share it out because what we are doing is equivalent to living in, let's say, the 19th century in a fascist regime and trying to use a printing press to get the word out under the cover of darkness in dark alleys. The powers that be don't want this information disseminated. So we have to go to extraordinary lengths. Somebody who I admire a lot recently said, if every single person who is vegan became an activist, we could achieve animal liberation overnight. Do you agree with that?
That's a very powerful statement. I think there's a lot of untapped potential where each one of us as individuals has a tremendous amount of power to have an influence on the people around us, whether it's what we're sharing on social media, if it's donating the percentage that we can, if it's handing out leaflets. When you look at the millions of people who care about this, it would be tremendous if even a small fraction more did more to spread the word. And that includes donating, by the way. You know, I used to go to Starbucks down the street from me to get coffee, and I realized that those coffees are like $3 now. And if I just had coffee at home, I'd have like $100 more a month to donate to effective work to educate people about animals. So I encourage people also to think about whether they can become monthly donors of effective organizations working on farmed animal issues. So all of those things collectively really do make a difference. We're seeing it make a difference, but it's absolutely true that many of us feel like there's only a little bit we can do. And when they realize that every one of us can really make a difference, when you persuade someone to make a change in their diet, that can save dozens or hundreds of animals from
thousands of animals over a lifetime.
Over a lifetime, absolutely.
In fact, it might save hundreds of animals with one hamburger, because when you eat fast food hamburgers, it's not one cow you're eating. You're eating animal parts from sometimes thousands of different animals, because it's all mushed together. And just the thought of that is so nauseating. I can't even imagine somebody wanting to do that. We've got another caller. Michael in Los Angeles, do you want your free ticket? We're actually going to increase it. We've already hit 5. We're going to increase it to 6. And what is your question?
Oh, yes, I would love that, Jane. Thank you so much. First, I just want to tell Mark, thank you for making this film. And I love the picture of your face interspersed with the gorilla. Very powerful and eye-catching. But my question is, will the film be available to stream in the future? Because I want to have my friends and family that are not vegan yet to see this film. And I think if it was available to stream, especially maybe on Unchained TV, I could easily, send it to them and they could watch it. Thank you so much. Thanks, Jane.
Thanks for that plug, but I'll leave it to Mark to answer that question.
Yes. Streaming platforms will definitely be where it reaches the most people. And based upon the trailer that people will watch on the page that the movie's on the streaming platforms, that should encourage people who are not already interested in this issue to be curious and to be excited to see it. It's really aimed at catching people's attention, like you mentioned with the poster, and similarly with the trailer. So it'll be on streaming platforms sometime a little bit after the premieres, like a month or so after the initial premieres. And you can get an email when it's available on streaming platforms if you go to the film's website, humansandotheranimalsmovie.com. And of course, for people who are in New York City, where the world premiere will be, Los Angeles, where the West Coast premiere will be, San Francisco, Chicago, Dallas, Boston, or Philadelphia, please bring your friends and family members to the screening. It's an entertaining movie to watch, and it's not a too graphic movie to watch. And I hope by striking that balance, but still really educating people, bringing the ideas to the forefront, it can help change friends and family members' thoughts.
Yeah, I would urge everybody who's coming, all the 6 people are getting free tickets to the LA premiere from Unchained TV. Bring a non-vegan or a pre-vegan. And if you do that, we'll buy their ticket too. So that is a call to action right there. I think all those folks are still watching. You will get an additional free ticket if you bring a pre-vegan to see it. I will definitely bring a pre-vegan to see it. And I want to give a shout out to Mark personally, because he has, as I mentioned before, given us Speciesism, the movie, to stream. And so that's an act of generosity. He's not paid for that. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. We do not charge anybody to watch any of our films, and we are mostly volunteer run. I don't take a salary. This is a labor of love to basically get people to wake up, because the clock is ticking. I've also done a documentary called Countdown to Year Zero, which is also streaming on Unchained TV. And we profile the work of Dr. Silas Rao, who had said that we only have less than a decade to transition to a global plant-based culture, or we will essentially burst through the few boundaries that exist, that once you cross to the other side, there is no turning back. And that's just not me or him saying it. Sir David Attenborough, speaking of documentaries, has a wonderful documentary, I believe it's on Netflix, called Breaking Boundaries. Those boundaries, in other words, once the ice caps melt, you can't go on Amazon.com and order new ice caps. It's game over for the ice caps. And the impact of that is extraordinary. Once we wipe out all species, we are going to experience an ecological collapse that is going to come back and bite us every day. I wake up just this morning, Hurricane Beryl hitting Jamaica, and the day before, and fires in Northern California. And the other day it was flooding in the Midwest. And you see all this, what I call catastrophe porn on mainstream media. But then when we offer a solution, they refuse to cover it. And we only have a couple of minutes, but I want to ask you about that, Mark. The New York Times recently had an article that said, an Oxford University study showed that heavy meat eaters, which is most Americans, who switch to a plant-based diet can reduce their greenhouse gas emissions by more than 75%. And I said, surely, well, that's in the New York Times. That's the solution to climate change right there. If we all did it, we'd all collectively reduce our collective greenhouse gas emissions footprint by 75%. Nobody covered it. Not CNN, not MSNBC. Nobody else covered it. Shame on them, to be sorry to say, but that is a journalistic lapse.
Yeah, it's not just animals that we impact with our food choices. The environmental impacts are profound. You mentioned climate impacts. There are also local environmental impacts. People who live near these facilities being forced to breathe in these toxic fumes like ammonia and hydrogen sulfide, people getting sick from fine particulate matter in the air, manure ending up in people's water. This is really catastrophic on so many levels. But what's powerful is that as more and more people are standing up and are making changes with their own diets and are acting, or they are speaking with individuals, they are doing protests, They're sharing things on social media. They're donating more. They're giving out flyers. They're inviting friends and family members to film screenings. This is what collectively allows each person whose impact is already substantial in terms of reducing damage to the climate, reducing the amount of animals forced to live in these facilities, reducing the amount of chemicals that people have to breathe who live near these facilities. You can double, triple, quadruple, and so on your impact as you share this information. So it's really about not just making the choices on your own, but standing up and being part of effective efforts to change policy and to change people's own behavior around you.
Yeah, and I do agree. I think if every vegan turned into a very determined activist, I think we could hit the tipping point much more quickly. And as we wrap up, I want to urge everybody again, download Unchained TV.
So it's a vegan Netflix. Okay, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
I love Unchained TV.
Unchained TV. Your life will change. It's just that easy.
Unchained TV has all sorts of content for everybody.
Unchained TV changed my life.
Unchained TV is crushing it.
I love Unchained TV. Unchained TV is my go-to.
Unchained TV. Who knew?
Unchained, baby. Yay.
I want to thank Mark DeVries for coming on. He is a very busy man. And wow, you give me inspiration. I will say this. Last night, I was getting really tired and I knew I had to publish another article. And I didn't want to review that article. But after watching the clip of you saying that you basically gave up your plans to go to law school, which you later finished, and you are an attorney, among many other things. You're an overachiever. And I looked at that clip and I go, what am I complaining about? Let me get this article published, which I did. So you've personally inspired me to give it my all. And also Ingrid Newkirk, who said, you know, we can't afford to have burnout. We can't afford to say, oh, you know, because the clock is ticking. So I will be at the July premiere. We are going to have a nice group of Unchained TV supporters at the July premiere. We urge everybody in New York and all around the country to go to. It's very, very simple. Just go to Humans and Other Animals movie. Humansandotheranimalsmovie.com. Humansandotheranimalsmovie.com. And get your tickets. And let's change the world together. We can do it. Thanks again, Mark. See you next time.
Thank you. And I look forward to seeing you all at the premieres.
And there's a Q&A afterwards. So you'll really get to hear
from Mark. See you there. Yes.
Yes. Talk to you soon. Bye.
All right.